Hey there, welcome aboard the 757 Spy Flight. We are at Finkenwerder Airport. This is the other airport in Hamburg, Germany. And hello, I am Dave. I do the Spy Flights over on Twitch, and it is so nice of you to join me. There was a video that was on YouTube last week, and it was all about this airplane right here. It's the Airbus A321 Neo XLR. This is the airplane that got me finally interested in learning and really appreciating all the brilliant things that you'll find aboard an Airbus. Well, the actual Neo XLR, with the LEAP engines, has never flown before except for last week, and it was really cool. I went looking in and I saw that the livery. This is the livery, and this is the airplane that flew for the first time last week. And it was a typical test flight that they did. So if you go and you look back on Flight Radar 24, you can see, you know, it went all over the place around Hamburg. Then it did its second flight, which was Hamburg to Toulouse. So I figured, well, it'd be better to try and do a flight in this airplane to Toulouse as opposed to try and recreate all the twists and turns that they took on the other flight. Now, normally this is where you get to see all sorts of really groovy graphics about the flight that I have planned. I have not planned anything yet. So one of the questions that I get sometimes over on Twitch is, how do you plan flights? What's the process? So at this point in time, all I have done is I have identified the ICAO codes, the airport codes for our airports, and I put this airplane on the ground there. That's it. Have done nothing else. And so let's do some flight planning together. And my flight planning starts over here with Sim Toolkit Pro. This is a free application. It's really cool. I've been using this for a couple of years now and really, really like this. So this is how I usually do a flight plan. So we are at Hamburg Finkenwerder Airport, EDHI. And so there we go. And we are going to Toulouse, LFBO. Toulouse. And there we go. There's actually an A319 that's going to be flying there earlier today. But we're going to be in the A321. And let's see. This is going to be the Airbus. And actually, it should be A21N. I believe is the designator for this aircraft. So this is going to be an Airbus owned airplane. So we're going to be AIB Airbus, and I'm going to give myself my usual flight number 441. The flight number actually is 4 Yankee. The current time is 14:59 Zulu. So let's see if we can't be wheels up by 15:30 Zulu. Okay, and from previous videos, you know that I do try, and if I'm going to take off at 15:30, I like to be pushing back at 15:30 because that's what real airplanes and airlines do. So there you go. I usually grab the flight plan format, which is United Airlines 2018 version. And then my flight planning units are in kgs because we're in an Airbus and we're flying in Europe and kgs are cool. So let's go ahead and generate a flight plan and see what happens. So now we're going to go over here to SimBrief and Sim Toolkit Pro. Actually, we're on Sim Toolkit Pro. We've just gone to SimBrief, and we are going to do a flight plan. So it is finding alternates right now, and the green line is going across the screen, and we're almost done. If it doesn't turn red, we're in good shape. All right, I think it's not going to turn red. So my next step in my process is doing this sort of thing. So let's go over here, and here is my flight plan. We've got a flight plan here. So what I do is I come over here, and these are my infamous flight notes. And this is kind of what it looks like in the morning. So I kind of have to come over here and I have to clean them up from the night before. Sometimes I clean them up the night before. Last night I was kind of tired, so I didn't do a very good job of cleaning up. I just turned everything off and actually went to bed. If my voice sounds really bad these days, it is because to be honest, I'm really having to take cold medication, not because of the big nasty disease, but because of a very old one. It's called pollen and allergies, and it totally sucks. Anyhow, okay, so we did Portland to Vancouver. We are at Hamburg, and that's EDHI. And we are going to Toulouse, LFBO, and there we go. So here's my flight notes here. So let's go ahead and grab the flight plan, Control-C, and then Control-V. I just paste it right in there. Okay, so that's pretty good. Let's get some weather right now. We do have real world weather, so EDHI. And here in Sim Toolkit Pro, you can just go and grab the latest METAR. There are several places to get it. I frequently use METARTAF.com. We'll look at that in a bit. And LFBO. Let's just go ahead and grab ourselves a METAR for Toulouse. It's old. It'll be old by the time we get there, but at least we can kind of plan ahead. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. We're going to be off FATSIM for this flight today. And the other thing that we can do now is we can go, and the tow list right now does not go out online and automatically bring in your flight plan, but I've heard that they're going to be making that available in X-Plane 12 maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but boy, that would sure be nice. What you can do is export a FMS flight plan in X-Plane 11, and you're going to want to put that in X-Plane 11 subfolder output subfolder FMS plans. And there we go. We have a flight plan there. Now we also need to get a OPF, operational flight plan. And I usually save this on my desktop to a flight plan that's already there, and I just call it active plan. And so there we go there, and I can come over to my active plan, and now I have the PDF file right there, and it's just what I need. Over here on this, anything else that I need? No, not really. We're going to be offline, blah, blah, blah. We could pre-file on VATSIM, but this is all about us just chilling. So let's activate the flight, and you can see the little airplane is up there. Looks like we're going to be going over France and near Paris, and this flight path here is almost identical to the path that the real airplane took. And they took that path last week when they transported the airplane down to Toulouse. So here's my flight plan. And generally, we can look here. Here is significant weather. So some thunderstorms are going to be to the south and west of Toulouse. We've got thunderstorms over Germany, north of Italy and Greece. So, and up here. North of Germany. So I don't think we got too much severe or significant weather here. Winds look like they're going to be fairly moderate, but it does look like the wind speed's going to be picking up a little bit closer to Toulouse. So there's our flight path there. Does look like it's got a small step climb in here. So we may have a small step climb. And then the next page that pops up, this is my flight plan. So again, this is the United Airlines 2018 style. I will go and I will grab the top two lines and I put them over here. And by the way, this little text file that I'm building right now, if you look in the description below the video box here on YouTube, I clip this in for you. So you can copy and paste it into Notepad for you, and you can use this. I call this little Notepad file the flight strip. And no, it has nothing to do with the level of clothing that I have. It has to do with, in the old days, air traffic controllers kept track of airplanes on these plastic things that they would slide some paper in and write on them on like a grease pencil or something. And that's how they kept track of it, and they called those things the flight strip. And so that's what I call this. We're going to be flying for an hour and 55 minutes. We're going to go 753 miles. So 753. We're going to flight level 360, except we have a step climb here. Actually, we go down in altitude, it says, to flight level 350 at PAM. So, okay, we're going to do a step climb down. Cost index for today is 0.5. And then our zero fuel weight in kgs is going to be 71.8. Fuel, we need to board 9.0 tons of fuel. So we can put that there. And then remaining fuel, assuming we don't have to go around, divert, or hold, should be 3.7 tons of fuel. And that's just the basic stuff that I will grab off the flight plan. I will still keep this over on the other screen and I minimize it, but it's always there on the desktop. And here we go. Oh, I forgot one piece of information. Our alternate is LFML. So then I'll also go LFML. And there we go. So we got all this done. This is really nice. And so I'm going to hit File and Save. Now then, let's get some charts. I've been using a combination of both Navigraph and Aerosoft charts. I really do like the Lido style of charts. Unfortunately, the coverage is not quite as good as the charts on Navigraph. And unfortunately, I'm kind of approaching a point where I can't afford 2 separate subscriptions for charts. So I'm going to stick here with this. But that being said, boy, really do like the Lido style of format. So, okay, let's get an airport chart. Did we get a SID? We got the WSN3W. I guess it's the Wyzen 3. Okay, so here is Weiser 3W. Let's see, is this it? It should say Wyzen 3. Let's see, WSN. So WSN 3. There we go. This is our departure right there. Okay, so we got a departure. Coming into Toulouse, we're going to be doing the NARA 6 Alpha. So let's see if we have a star NARA 6I. Is there a 6? Here's 6N. Let's go down here. Is there a NARA 6 Alpha? Yeah, sometimes it's hard to find stuff here. So let's just go and we have to highlight here. Actually, I think there's another way to do this. I don't remember. Let's just go and do it. So we need a 6 Alpha. 6 Lima, 6 Lima, 6 November, 6 Lima. Okay, here is NARAC 6 Alpha. I just decided to go to the top. Let's see if this is it. Let's see. NARA 6 Alpha. Okay, I should have gone to the top, but okay, we've got that. And they are suggesting, SimBrief gave me runway 144 landing. So there's a ILS or localizer. Why don't we plan that? Now there's an RNAV initial here. So let's see, there's ABLIS and Netro. So let's see, do we have a ABLIS or Netro over here, or do we need the initial? Let's see if this RNAV initial gives me anything. Not really. Oh, there's ABLIS. Okay, so we do need this one too, and our transition is going to be ABLIS. Or, yeah, ABLIS, A-B-L-I-S. I'm sure I mispronounced it horribly. And then let's go and grab ourselves a ground chart, and we'll grab parking chart, stands. And now what we've got is what I call my stack of charts. And so here's all of the charts that I think we need. Now, if we were looking at the arrivals and we looked at ADIS and they had more than one runway for landing, I would go and get runway charts for both of the active runways. That way, when we're coming in, we're on VATSIM and we're busy, I've got the charts already preloaded in my stack of charts and we're all cool and ready to go. These are the kinds of things, reviewing the flight plan, checking the notes, reading the NOTAMs and all those other things. These are the things that the real world pilots do. When they get to the airport and they get the flight plan and they go to the pilot's office and do all of that stuff. And that's the stuff that they do before they go to the airplane. And so now let's go on out to the airplane. I don't really have anything so that we can get stairs or anything like that, but we can kind of fake it, I guess. So let's go ahead and get into the best seat in the house. Here it is. And this is a great looking airplane. And I've really become quite the fan of the Airbus style of cockpit too. Before you start doing anything actually in your airplane, look to the lower right. You see my stick moving around. You see the rudder pedals moving around. See my throttles moving up. Okay, this is what I call jiggling the controls. And this is a flight simulator thing. You know how the real pilots have to do the control surfaces check? Well, us simulator pilots, we got to do this in advance just to make sure that your USB controllers have not disconnected. I've had that happen to me while I was on takeoff, and because I didn't check it. So you really do need to check those, and I suggest for a simulator pilot, do it before you start flipping any other switches, because if you have to restart, that's just going to be wasted time for you. And there we go. I think now it's time to start pushing buttons here. So we can go over here and go to battery 1 and battery 2, and we can do external power. Today is the 20th. That is an even day. So we're going to go and we're going to turn on navigation and logo light system number 2. Odd and even is how I play that game. You can come over here and you can turn on no smoking. And I'm going to turn it all the way on. And so that's good. And everything is good for the moment up here. Looking down here, the displays are on, but Airbus, they traditionally turn these down. I usually turn the knobs straight up to get the flight going. And then we come down here and we need to do the same thing on the upper and lower ECAMs. And you'll also need to turn up the McDo. If you don't do that, you will be in McTrouble. And there's your stupid joke there. Okay, let's go over here and we're going to go and turn on active. So we've got our radio is on and everything else is good. My parking brake is off. So that's good. Parking brake is off. We do have chocks in place. So I think that they normally want you to have the parking brakes off, especially after landing, because Airbus is notorious for hot brakes. So I believe that's kind of what goes on. Check your aviation. Cycle is 2206. I believe that is the current one. So let's go over to the init page. Now then, because I downloaded my flight plan into the flight plan folder in X-Plane, we should be able to go EDHI and then LFBO. Sorry, allergy voice. And we should be able to put this in company route, not in database. Oh no. EDHI, LFBO. Okay, maybe I don't know how to type. So what we need to do is get ourselves a web file browser. Go to X-Plane 11. Okay, and from here, we go to output. And we go to FMS plans, EDHI, LFBO. Do I not know how to spell? EDHI, LFBO. So company route clearly didn't work. Maybe if I do the slash LFBO. Oh, okay, so you don't put it in company route, you put it over in the other side and you have to put a slash. Okay, live and learn. There's our flight plan. Insert. Okay, so the company route is XFWTLS01. Okay, there we go. Our alternate for today is LFML. So LFML. Our flight number is AIB, I believe. Was that it? I think it's AIB for Airbus. AIB, flight 441. Our cost index for today's flight is an exciting 5. Yeah, let's go super slow. And our final cruise is flight level 360, 36,000 feet. And there we go. Now that we got that little bit of information, let's come on up here. Turn on IR number 1. Make sure ADIRS on the very top says on battery. It always does, but that's what you check. You do the same thing over here. Make sure that all of the IRLs have a direct line to the battery. In case you have a failure of all your electrical systems, at least you kind of know where you are. And so there's ADIRS. We can go and we can do a APU fire test. There's an APU fire test. How about engine 1? And we could also do engine 2. And there goes all those fire tests. I usually turn on the crew supply of oxygen down here because I guess, you know, the crew wants to breathe or something. Lazy. I'm kidding, of course. And everything's good to go up here. Now we can come down here and we can init, IRS init, and just align and confirm. And we've got alignment is happening. Now then, at this point in time, we need to go and get what I call the big green box. And I've actually got the big green box, which is the Toulouse Interactive Simulation Control System, or ISCS, and I've got that set up to one of my buttons on my throttles, so quadrant over here, so that I can quickly get to this, and I suggest that too. So loading information. We need to figure out what we're loading. And right now the zero fuel weight is 67198. It needs to be 71180. So let's kick this up till about 711. Okay, so there is 710. Let's add a little bit of cargo in the forward bin. 7116. 72, 7118. There you go. There, it doesn't get much better than that. And then I might go ahead and just slide this a little bit until these numbers are, until these are kind of close to the center. Somebody was, I don't know what it is on this. I think it's like supposed to be 19 or 20% on an A319. I don't remember what that number is supposed to be for this airplane. So we'll go with 27.4 for our zero fuel weight center of gravity. Fuel is 9047. So we'll move this up. Now you can do the slider, or you can click this and then you can go and delete it. 9047, and you can load the exact amount of fuel in there too. I think we could probably even do that with the zero fuel weight. But those are, that's how you could do fuel. Couple of rules of thumb for you. If I'm flying in a VATSIM event, I add another 1,000 for the departure. If there's VATSIM where we're landing, I add 2,000 pounds, just because there's going to be delays. And let's go ahead and load the airplane and quick refuel and defuel. There we go. We are done. Over here on ground services, you can see all of my doors are open or on auto. The control freak in me wants to control the doors. Basically, though, I'm just going to leave this alone. We do have external power, and it's all set up online. Chocks are in place. So at this point, I'm going to say that the giant green box is done. And that's how we load the airplane. Now we can come back here and do more of the McDo. That's going to get old for you. Sorry. Flight plan. We are at EDHI landing runway departing runway 23. So runway 23, we are going to be on the WSN 3W, the Wizen 3 whiskey, and no transition there. So insert, and there is our departure, and then we can kind of come down here. And we got a pretty good flight plan here. Now, I'm not going to make you sit and watch all the cruise. If you've seen these videos before, you know that one of the things that I do is I'll stop in the middle of cruise when there's nothing going on, because we can pause videos here on YouTube, which is nice for you. You don't have to listen to any more bad jokes. Okay, LFBO, landing runway 14 right, ILS 14 right. This is going to be the NARA 6 Alpha. So NARA 6 Alpha, and we're doing the ABLIS transition, and we don't have another transition there, so we'll just insert that into the flight plan. Oh, let's see if there's a VIA. VIA ABLIS, no other transition there, so I guess that's just it. So insert and hit flight plan. Now, if you want to jump down a little rabbit hole here, and I hardly ever pop out a window like this, but this is probably the best way to be able to go and look at your flight plan, the way the pilots will. Now, in the cockpit, it's a lot easier. They can just push the button and watch the little map go by. This way, it's a little easier for us in our simulated world, and we can just go and see, do we have any route discontinuities? And there we go. And we can also just see how we're going. Now at PAM, we're supposed to do an altitude change, right? So let's go and do flight plan again. There is PAM. And at PAM, we have an altitude change here. I think if we click PAM, let's see, fix info, increase airways. Okay, I don't think it's over there. So let's go, and it's flight level 350 at PAM. So let's try and do /350 at PAM. So vertical revision at PAM, 250. There's an altitude constraint. So 350. Whoops, clear. So now we just need to do, I guess, 350 over here. And it says altitude error. It doesn't like something, but we do have that step descent. So that's a little bit weird. Let's go ahead and put it in, and we will see what happens. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, it's not like I hit the AZ5 button, right? Okay, so this part of the McDo is done. Usually after I do that, that's when I will go in Europe. I believe the rule is 10 minutes before departure, you're going to turn on your APU. I think that's to cut down on pollution and noise. And so we're going to look back here and see if we have a flap that opens. I said we're going to look and see, is there a flap open? I don't necessarily think that you have to wait for the flap to be open, but I usually kind of wait for that to prevent any kind of a flap with the system. Yeah, there's clearly something bad in my coffee today. Sorry about that. And if you go outside the back of the airplane, of course you can hear the APU firing on up there. Airplane sounds. Gotta love them. All right, everything's looking good here. Let's come on down here. We are in Europe. And so for this, basically it's 1,000 until they tell you differently. So we've got that one in there. And even though we're not on VATSIM, I always try and be a good pilot and set up my proper what's the word I'm looking for? Squawk code, yes. So at this point in time, it's time to do init page B. So let's go over here and do page 2. And here we need our 0 fuel weight and 0 fuel weight center of gravity. So we can get the big green box again and come on over here to loading info. And over here, our current 0 fuel weight is 71.2. So 71.2 / there's already a number in there. The giant green box says it's 27.4. So 27.4. And that'll go in there for the top. Block fuel, take it off the gas gauge, 9.0. So it's 9.04. 9.04 should round it perhaps. And there it is. And now it's got those things taken care of. So now we've got init page B. We can go over to performance. And over here, what we do is we come on over here, and let's go ahead and slide this like this. Let's get the giant green box again. Come on over here, and let's do the takeoff performance. This is really cool. It's all within this airplane. So what do we want to do? We know what runway. Do we want to do flaps 1 or flaps 2? How about flaps 2? So we'll go ahead and do that one. And let's see. We could figure out a slope a little bit later on. I don't really feel like jumping down that rabbit hole today. Or you could go and look. We don't have to figure it out. We could actually come over here to Sim Toolkit Pro. Our slope is 0.0. So you could also look there. If you use the other system called Volanta, Volanta will give you slope too. So for us, we are going to be flaps 2. And our trim is going to be down 0.0. So DN 0.0. Not much of a trim setting there. We are going to flex to 56 degrees. V1 is 146. The rotate is 146. Oops, got to hit the 4 before you do the 6. See? and V2 is 149. Okay, and all of this is looking pretty good. Transition altitude is set at 5,000 feet. All of this is looking good. So we can get rid of the giant green box, and the APU is up and running. Let's get the APU bleed on. You turn the temperature in the back of the airplane down a little click because there's more people in the back, that sort of deal. We're going to turn seatbelts on. We're also done with ground power, so we can go and turn off the external power. Thank goodness the APU is set. Doors are all closed, so we're going to go and do seatbelts are on. I'm going to arm the emergency exit lights. And things are slowly coming together. Now then, this airplane does have its own pushback application. Although here in X-Plane, I've been using better pushback for a long time. It just works.
On to Cockpit. Please show me where you want to go.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a push and spin.
On to Cockpit. Toes driving up.
All right, so that's good. Let's go on over here. For the SID going out, our initial climb clearance is 5,000 feet. So if you're over on VATSIM and all they say to you is climb via the SID and they don't give you an altitude, go and look at your SID chart. Chances are there is a number that they want you to see. 1012 is our altimeter setting, and I have my altimeters all set together. So I tie them all together. I'm one person in the cockpit. I got to fly, got to do the radios. I just do that sort of thing. Okay. And at this point in time, these airplanes are getting more and more complex.
Okay,
so
all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect. Set parking brake.
Parking brake is not set, is it? So, parking brake is set. These airplanes are getting so much more complex. Go over to Google and say Airbus A321 checklist PDF, space like that. Just go and do a search for that, and you should be able to get a PDF of a real-world checklist. And for us, our cockpit prep is done. The gear pins are aboard. Passenger signs are on. ADIRs are all set to nav. Fuel quantity is verified for the flight, 9.0. Takeoff data is set in the McDo. The barrel reference is set, and we are good to the line now.
Connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
We will do that in a minute. Thank you. Now, this is an older checklist, and I don't think that Airbus is going down to the line anymore. So if you were to see closely, you would see where there's a little line on this one. And so the line is, are doors and windows closed? Yes. Is the beacon on? Yes. Are the thrust levers at idle? Yes. Have I smacked the microphone? Yes. And is the parking brake set? Yes. The before start checks are done. So we're good to go. If we were on VATSIM, there was no ATC, we would be announcing our intentions, but instead let's just let's go and not release the parking brake. Let's go get the giant green box and go to ground services, and we're gonna pull the chocks, and we're gonna do external power. Now we're gonna release the parking brake. Parking brake is released.
Starting pushback, and you may start the engines.
All right. There's a nice wing view for you. Got a nice cabin view, another wing view. There's a brand new Finnair Airbus all ready to be delivered. This is the Airbus area of Finkenwerder Airport. If Finkenwerder sounds a little bit familiar to you, this is an airport where the belugas fly in, and I believe over there is the Beluga Line Station. And so this is where belugas from Harden in the UK and Scotland fly down, because the Airbus manufactures airplane wings up in Harden. And so there's a Beluga Line Station up there, and there's another one there, you know, where the airplane just goes right into the middle of the building. The front end of the airplane is in the building, and so that they can open the big door. And so this is an Airbus airport too. Let's go ahead and take the starter, and the starter is now set to normal start. Look down here. Do you have pneumatic pressure on the engines? We do. Starting engine number 1. Now, engine number 1, the box here should turn gray on N2. If that starts happening, then you look to see what your oil quantity is. You should also see the oil pressure starting to go up too. Now then, it's also doing something called cooling. And so one of the things this is doing is this is cooling the engine a bit. So it's kind of like a pre-rinse in your washing machine at home or something like that. So it's you know, pre-cooling the engine. And so it gives you a countdown, and once that countdown is over, then the N2 starts to go up. And at the appropriate moment, you'll notice that fuel flow will start. So if we look here carefully, you'll look at that number under the gray box. Fuel flow starts to go.
Complete. Please set parking brake.
Fuel flow would probably be better if I turned on my fuel pumps. I always forget that. Okay, and parking brake is set.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
And fortunately, I got my fuel pumps in time, and we have fuel flow. EGT is rising, and if we were to go outside, cover your ears, it's noisy. And we got a good start on our very, very big LEAP engine. I think it's a LEAP. Maybe it's the Pratt & Whitney version. Yeah, I think it is. And it looks like we got a good start on engine number 1. You can tell that the start sequence is over.
Tower is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed and signal on the left. I'll see you next time. Have a safe flight.
On the left, thanks for the push. If you are outside looking at your airplane, want to know if the start sequence is concluded and you can start the other airplane, see the N2 box here? The N2 box is no longer in gray. That means the start sequence is over and we can start engine number 2. You do hear some of the PTU pump going off there, so dogs are barking. Look over here, the guy standing out there, the pushback truck driver, thumbs up, holding up the gear pin. That's also salute and release from guidance. They've done a check underneath the airplane and confirmed to you that there's nobody underneath the airplane. You can start rolling around. Airlines tend to take the salute and release from guidance seriously for that reason. You know, that way there's nobody down messing around with some other thing on the tire, and the pilots have released the parking brake because they think they're clear to go. Cooling is now done. Engine number 2 is now starting. So you can see that little gray box that I was talking about down there. We've already got our salute and release as well. After takeoff, Finkenwerder is one of those airports that requires a back taxi. So after this, we are blasting off on 2-3. So we're going to make a right turn at taxiway Delta and go down and back taxi on runway 23. See, we're also going to start moving the airplane about. So if we're going to do that, we need to go over here and we're going to go to TARA. That's Squawk Mode Charlie over on VATSIM, and we'll go ahead and turn on ATC TCAS. And so all of this is now set. I usually kind of just do all of these together. And we got 2 engines have started. Both engines are available. So come on down here. This airplane works really, really well with the Thrustmaster Airbus throttle stuff. Very nicely done. We're done with the APU, so APU bleed and master can go off. Let's do our control checks. So grab your side stick, make sure your chair's locked into place, and elevator all the way forward and release. Pull it all the way back and release. Left, all the way left and release. Make sure it goes back to neutral. All the way to the right and release. Rudder all the way to the right, all the way to the left. Make sure it goes back to center. And then the trim is going to be down 0.0. It's a very small number, so just one little tap on the trim and you're all set and ready to go. Come on over here. We'll do predictive wind shear is on. I'm going to arm my speed brakes. And we'll do after start checks. Anti-ice isn't needed. ECAM status is checked and it is good. Pitch trim has been set. Rudder trim. This isn't so much important on the first flight of the day, but second, third, fourth flights of the day, you're going to need to be sure and reset your rudder trim. Otherwise, the airplane starts going in directions you might not like. And I think we're ready to go. So we'll come over here and we're going to click the nose light. Parking brake is off. And we may need to go here, add a little bit of power. Not much though. This airplane does taxi fairly nicely. There is a tug in the middle of everything, so we're going to have to go off to the side here. And out we go. I think that Mr. Airbus basically sets these things to taxi, to just do a what I call the thrust, and I think other people, it's the thrust idle taxi. So there you go. That's all you got to do. Really pretty cool. Are we going to take out that tug? Nope. Didn't hit it. Sometimes, though, the airplanes will pick up a little bit of speed. So you, especially if you're going downhill at an airport that isn't perfectly level. You can see our ground speed is increasing. There's 10 knots. I do use the twist stick for nose wheel steering. It's really nice to have nose wheel steering. Coming up on a 90-degree turn. And we can come on over here. Oh, look at this. It says, have a great flight. Okay. I got to tell you, little things like that on a sign actually are really nice. Okay, here's hold short for runway 23. And parking brakes, before takeoff checklist, flight controls, checked and set, flight instruments are good. Briefing has been done ad nauseum. Flaps go to flaps 2. V1, VR, V2, flex temperature are all set in the McDo. ATC is on. ECAM memo is still got a couple of things here. So we need to go auto brakes max. We need to come up here and do a cabin call. And we need to do what I call the takeoff safety quiz. And that's takeoff config. We've clicked it and we are good. Cabin is ready. Going out onto a runway. This is when I go ahead and I turn on my strobes. I will also go and click one click each on landing lights. This is one of those airplanes that the landing lights drops down out of the bottom of the airplane. They're not on. They've just dropped down out of the bottom of the airplane. Flaps. So for me, there's airlines and people that know you set your flaps before you start your initial taxi. I don't know for what reason. It's warm outside of Spy HQ. We saw temperatures in the 90s Fahrenheit just a few days ago. But I'm still, for some crazy reason in winter mode, which basically means if you're in winter mode, you're not going to go and do flaps until you're closer to takeoff so that you can avoid, getting a bunch of snow and ice and stuff in the flap mechanism. So I'm, for some reason, still stuck in winter mode. If we were on VATSIM, but there was no ATC, I would have looked up and down the runway before just taxiing out like I own the place. But we're not on VATSIM right now, so I guess we own the place. Our checklist, we could also do the rest of the checklists. So the old school version is to the line, and our runway is confirmed, cabin crew is notified, TCAS is on, engine mode is going to be normal, packs are going to be on for takeoff, and we are ready to go. And there we go. All is working well. If you're new to these videos that I do over here on YouTube, I hope you're flying along. I hope you're stopping and starting, and so that you can kind of follow me along, and it's a great way to learn a new airplane. It's how I learn new airplanes. I go and I watch other people's videos, and that's how I learn a new airplane too, so I hope that this is helpful for you. If it isn't, I don't think that you would be here. We're 45 minutes into this video. I don't think you'd still be here. Unless you're just here for the jokes, and if that's the case, then I don't know, therapy perhaps. I'm kidding. This is one of the interesting airports, Finkenwerder, so it's right by a river, and this is one of those airports where they have to keep an eye on the traffic on the river, because if there's a sailboat that goes by and the mast can be too tall for landing, you can't land if there's sailboats and stuff on the river. Okay, let's do a slow loop and take off. The next thing that'll happen is we'll take off, we'll start our climb. As we're climbing out, one of the things that I usually do is I will stop the video for just basically cruise and stuff like that. So what you should plan on doing as you're flying too is when I stop the video that I'm recording, you go ahead and just put the YouTube video on pause, fly the flight, and then when we get 100 miles, from top of descent, start the video again, and then that should work for you. Again, that way you just don't have to listen to a bunch of mindless chatter, because that's about all that would happen during cruise. Okay, I think we're ready to go, so click your landing lights one more time. Landing lights are on. I think we're ready to go. So comfortable in the chair, parking brakes are released, throttle's up just a little bit. And watch the engine indicators. When they match and they're stable, you say stable. And we go manual flex, SRS and runway are set. Auto thrust is blue. Something being blue means it's armed. I think my sensitivities are just too sensitive. And so I'm kind of floppy around on takeoff rolls. And there's 100 knots. V1, rotate. Probably climbing a little bit steep. That's one of the problems that you'll get into when you go outside and watch takeoff. Speed. But it's fun to go and watch a takeoff. Speed. Yeah, I'm not going to lever climb until it stops yelling at me about speed. Crazy airplane. Get a little bit more and then we'll lever climb. Okay, there we go. And there is thrust climb. And our flight directors are in good shape. And let's just go ahead and get some help from the autopilot. And get ready for flaps. Flaps 1. Always fun to go back in the cabin and watch the flaps do that flap thing. And out we go. Don't think we got to go back to the airport. Speed brakes are disarmed. And make the map a little bit bigger. And there's our departure. See, I've got constraints on, but I don't think we really have that many on this. Passing 33,000. There is our slats retract. Yep, still got leading edge slats down there. Passing 3,700. Clearly not climbing at warp factor 10, but that's okay. There's the S and slats. And flaps 1. And there we go. This is, if you're looking outside the airplane, this is ortho scenery around Hamburg. As you can see, I would say that from this altitude looks just as good as Microsoft Flight Simulator. Perhaps some of the autogen down there is a little fakey, but I wouldn't say very much. And so for a really great airplane like this one, I kind of feel like, you know, That's pretty good looking scenery out there. The weather that we're doing is coming to us from active sky. Okay, there is 5,000 feet, so that was our initial climb. Flight level 360 and managed. Continue the climb. I wasn't paying attention. And let's continue. Everything's looking good here. There's climb. Estimated fuel on board when we get to Toulouse is 4.2. The airplane, the fuel load that I have says we need to have, if this thing stays above 3.7, then we have not invaded our reserve fuel. And so that's good for us. That's good for us on the flight. Looking here on our departure, it was really simple. A slight right turn to 252 degrees after HI 103. Here is Weiser. There is the VOR and the end of the SID. So there we go. A very nice departure, I would say. Felt good. This is a great airplane. Up, QNH. And, okay, so there's two, you can push and pull. There we go, standard. And is it standard there? It is, and standard there. So altimeters are reset. Passing 8,000 and change. Engines are looking good. Anything funky here? Fuel used. How's the oil? Looking for any red numbers are probably a problem. Passing 9,000 feet. On the video of the test flight, and I'll see if I can't find that over on YouTube. On the video of the test flight from Airbus, I think the landing gear on your first flights and stuff, the landing gear stays down for the first one. So all of those videos are going to show the landing gear down. Okay, landing lights. And the little nose light. And we come up here and do a cabin call. There's forward, mid, exits. Okay, so do all. So they will do a 10,000 foot cabin call. Airlines do that. Some airlines do that to notify the flight attendants that they're past the altitude of sterile cockpit. So if the cabin crew needs to tell the pilot something, at that point they can do that. Flight attendants also use that as the notification of them that it's 10,000 feet, and they usually make the announcement about, hey, the seatbelt sign's still on, sit down. No, you can't go to the bathroom. And some airlines use that as an opportunity to encourage people to get their new exciting credit card. Nice view out there. There's our view from the cabin. View of the wings. Oh, the coffee machine's still plugged in. Good. Passing 13,000 feet. At WSN, we are out of the SID. At that point in time, I usually go from constraints over to airport. And so that way, it puts airports up here. So that way, if we lose an engine, or we have to land for some other reason immediately, if not sooner, all we have to do is look down at the map and say, there we go. There, EDHI is right over there. There we can go and land. And that's how that works. The Navigraph application does have a moving map, flight following, so you can see the pink arrow down there. There is our airplane, and that's on the SID. You can also use that as a moving map up here, which is nice. I also really like to be able to use a map like this so that as I'm flying around, I can look and see, okay, Bremen is to the south of us. Bremerhaven is up there. Okay, there is Wiener over there, so we'll stop for hot dogs. I'm sure they don't appreciate that reference. Sorry. Let's see. We're going to go right over Amsterdam. So one of the things that's really cool in the world of flight simulators is the scenery is so good. If you got the autopilot set and, you know, you've been kind of cooped up at home because of, you know, the virus and all that other stuff, you can kind of come back here to a wing view, look out the window. And if you're somebody like me that, you know, kind of takes the virus seriously and stuff like that, you look out the window and says, I remember getting to do this, maybe someday. So anyhow, you know, no matter what you're thinking or whatever, you still get to come back here and look out the window and just enjoy scenery going by, which is one of the cool things about flying in airplanes. Passing 17,000 feet, going on up to flight level 360. And Bremen is right out that way. I think it's actually more like this now. Real world. So real world, one pilot is going to have terrain radar, is required to have terrain radar on. The other pilot would be required to have weather radar on. And I think that that's even in the case of nice weather days. You've just got to have it on. So we'll go ahead and turn on terrain radar. And I think you're supposed to do that before you take off. So, you know, hopefully the terrain radar police don't come to get me. After takeoff and climb checklist, landing gear is up. Flaps are retracted. Packs are, of course, on. Barrel reference is set to standard. And the after takeoff checklist is complete. The way the flight simulators are going these days, you know, not just this airplane, but, you know, the Phoenix A320 over in Microsoft Flight Simulator, the new PMDG 737 in Microsoft Flight Simulator, the Rotate MD-11 here in X-Plane. All of these airplanes, including the airplanes from Toulouse, are getting more and more realistic. That means they're getting more and more complex. And seriously, having a real-world checklist printed up and here on your computer desk helps make sure you don't forget things that the real-world pilots don't want to forget. So there you go. It is a beautiful day to fly over Germany right now. We don't have an awful lot of turbulence. So we're going to go and be nice, and I'm going to turn off seatbelts. For the one person sitting back there that went and got the venti instead of the grande at the coffee counter and is going, gotta go. Because trust me though, if you're a passenger, you'll only do that once. Yes, I have personal experience. I'll never do it again. Because on that particular flight, it was turbulent, so it took longer than usual for the seatbelt sign to go out. I usually go cruising along in a flight like this with my map at 80 miles. That way I can see what's ahead. I can see airports out there in case we've got to, again, make an emergency landing. The McDo is all set up here on the climb, 4.2, so we've got plenty of fuel for landing. We're going to have more than enough fuel when we land, so that's good news. We can go over here to the fuel prediction page. That's going to give us more numbers, which is nice. The progress page is up on top of that. That's going to give you progress. I generally leave mine on performance because that's going to give me top of descent when we start to get closer to top of descent. And that's essentially what we got going on here. The flight today is 753 miles. This is about a 2-hour flight, 2 hours gate to gate. So I'm going to proceed to my final cruising altitude. Remember, at PAM, there is a step descent to flight level 350. And then, usually on a flight like this, I will restart the video about 100 miles from top of descent. Probably I'll restart the video somewhere in the middle, and I should be able to find the first flight video from Airbus and just catch you up on the flight. So look for one more little thing coming on up here, and I'll probably do that south of Paris or something like that. So in the meantime, there we go. Look at this fabulous airplane. And it's a beautiful day for flying in Germany. See you when we get south of Paris. Hey, welcome back. I hope you're doing well. We are just north of Paris, and the airplane is doing really good. We did our little step descent like the flight plan was calling for, and the airplane's in, like I said, it's in pretty good shape. Wanted to go and do a quick check here, and fuel, 4.3, so the 4.3 has not changed hardly at all. So we're in really good shape as far as the fuel is concerned. Come on back into the cabin. A little in-flight entertainment for the passengers. Here is a YouTube video, and this is the real world airplane. This was June 15th, and there is the airplane we're flying today. It just did its takeoff. This is Airbus video of the A321 XLR, and it's just amazing. As you can see, you know, they cycled the gear a few times. Got the nice heads-up display in there. They cycled flaps. I think the pilots were having fun. Of course they were. Came in for a nice turn. Now this is around Germany. So this is around Hamburg, Germany. This is the flight, the first flight around Finkenwerder, and we get ourselves a nice landing. Oh, let's turn on the water cannons too. Hey, first flight, you gotta have a little bit of fun like that, right? Okay, good. You gotta do that to, you know, test the windshield wipers. What a nice looking airplane. Congratulations to Airbus on this. This is, I think a lot of people are excited about this airplane and the capabilities it's gonna give. And it's just a really nice airplane too. So how about that for some nice in-flight entertainment back there. Here's where we are right now. We are to the north of Paris. So coming up on Paris right now. Top of descent, we've got still a long way to go here in France. So you're going to get an opportunity to pause the video again because we are 232 nautical miles out from our top of descent here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go and hit the pause button one more time and look forward to seeing you 100 miles from top of descent. Well, okay, it's not quite 100 miles. In fact, we're 87 miles from top of descent. Airplane is still flying. Thing is I was out of an essential piece of equipment for being a flight simmer. I was out of coffee. So it was either be here for 100 miles or take just a few more seconds and get the coffee poured and be properly prepared for today's landing. So not quite 100 miles. We missed it by about 20, but not by that much. So 100 miles from top of descent, what are the things that I usually do? On any old jetliner flight like this, one of the first things to do is head on over to the internets and take a look at Meet Our TAF. This is such a good website. Link in the description below, including a link to the YouTube video that we were watching of the really nice landing. So let's go ahead and hit refresh. and get rid of the ad. And it looks like our runway that SimBrief gave us was 14 right, 14 right, and it looks like 14 right is a very good landing runway. So winds are going to be ahead and to the left. So it's going to be blowing us to the right. The winds are 12 knots, 6¼ miles visibility, no ceiling, but there's a few little clouds bouncing around. One of the things you can do is come on over here and copy the METAR. And then I will go and take and put this in my flight notes. So you can see, and if you look in the description, you'll see that this current METAR is listed because I'm including these as well. So we're good to go there. We do know that our choice of runway, 14 right, is a good choice of runway. We know that it's going to be about 12 knots and it's going to be, 4,500 feet for clouds. So we're good to go there. Next thing the pilots are going to do is the pilot flying will brief the approach. So we're going to brief the approach here, and we are coming in on the Narek 6 Alpha arrival. So at Narek, this is our entry point into the star, and we're going to be exiting at Albus. So if we were on VATSIM right now, ATC might say that we are cleared to descend at pilot's discretion via the Narek 6 Alpha arrival, and say something along the lines of Toulouse is landing on the 14s, or landing to Toulouse is landing to the south. So we know that landing to the south, Albus is going to be our exit point. And then we do have the initial descent here at Albus. And so we continue on here to this point, the top of the ILS. The ILS is 108.9. The identifier code is TG, Tango Golf. And then on the actual ILS here, our final plunge altitude is 3,000 feet before we start our descent. Minimums for a Category C airplane is 689. And there's initial approach information. There's that information. Transition altitude. Okay, so for landing, an awful lot of, it almost always says transition level by air traffic control, so they can change that. But you'll almost always find the transition altitude for people climbing out is listed. So what we do, a rule of thumb for us flight simmers is take the transition altitude at 1,000 feet, there's transition level. And that's kind of the way to go. So 6,000 feet, let's go down here and look at the landing phase. It says transition level is 5,000 feet. I think that's close enough for flight simmer work, but that's at least the way that I go and try to figure those things. So we've just gone and verified that. Go back, we have 60 miles to top of descent. So for coming on in, if we were on VATSIM and we were cleared to descend at pilot's discretion, that means we could go to 8,000 feet. So let's go ahead and say that we did get that call from ATC, and we're going to put in 8,000 feet. So there's 8,000 feet. We also know that the runway is going to be 14 left. On runway 14 left, we're going to come in here, and let's see, this is the actual terminal over here. I believe that Airbus land is over in here. So my guess is they probably did not go over here to the airline terminal, to the arrival gates over here. It's probably going to be over here is where they took it in this general area. And in fact, here in Toulouse, there's a couple of places where they would deliver new aircraft. There's probably a ceremonial spot where people go to buy their new airplane, they pick up the keys and fly away. I don't think they're keys, but still, I think it's over in here. I know that the Beluga barn is over here. So the Beluga barn is over here. This is where the Belugas come in, and I think we go over in here. So I'm going to hope that maybe after our landing on 14 left, probably we would be able to slow down enough and take the Mike 4, keep an eye out as we cross 32 left. That doesn't really work very well. I would suggest probably we'll go auto brakes low and try and get November 2 and cross across this way. So exiting to the right at November 2, that means auto brakes low, not an awful lot of thrust reverse because it's going to take most of the runway. Come over here, and then we'll look for something that looks like the places where Airbus hangs out. So there is, we have now briefed our approach, so we've got that taken care of too. We've got an altitude set. We're 47 miles before the airplane that's done the math wants us to go and do our descent thing. We could also go and it wants destination data. So let's go ahead and do that. So phase and phase. And I usually leave this little reminder up until I actually look over and see my first little bit of data, which is the altimeter setting, which is 1009. Then I will clear it 1009. The reason that I do that is if I get busy and ATC calls and distracts me, it still reminds me that I have to put the data in. So that's kind of why I wait there. Temperature is 29 degrees, 29 degrees. The winds are 120 at 12, 120 at 12. And we know that minimums from our briefing, minimums are 689 feet, 689. We'll put that in the barrel box, and all that's good. So we've gone and taken care of that. So in some airplanes, you get these little cues or reminders to do things in the McDo or the FMC. I've really gotten to the point that I will not clear those until I'm actually doing what it tells me to do. Otherwise, again, ATC might tell us to do something and distract us, and then you forget. So that's one of those little things that I tend to do. Okay, we are 80 miles out. There is our top of descent hockey stick. The term hockey stick, the first time I heard that was from Captain Mike Ray. Captain Ray is a former retired United Airlines pilot. He has written a series of really interesting books about airplanes, obviously. And his series of books, it was initially for people trying to get a job with the airline, because to get a job with an airline, one of the first tests that you have to take is, can you pass a simulator check ride? Can you do a simulator check ride? And he wrote a book, and it's called The Pilot's Simulator Check Ride Manual. And it's all the little tips and tricks that you need to study to learn to pass a airline simulator check ride. And I got one way back when it first came out for the 757. Then, when it was time to learn Airbus, I went and bought his book about the Airbus too. Tad bit pricey, and they are available online. You can get them as a PDF. I will tell you that I think that if you want to take a deep dive into the rabbit holes of whatever your favorite jetliner is, that is a great place to start. I would learn the basic airplane first. I would play with it in the simulator before dropping the cash, but I think that those are really, that's a good thing to do if you want to jump down that rabbit hole. And I'll also use this opportunity to point out that I am not sponsored by Captain Ray or sponsored by anybody, so nobody paid me to say nice things that I say. I just think it's nice to say nice things when you find out something that's cool. Okay, we are now 20 miles to top of descent. Everything else is looking good. One of the things that I will also do is I'm going to every now and then hit the radio nav page, because what I want to do is see what the ILS frequency is set. And right now it's set to TBS 110.7. This is not correct for the LS frequency. Now, one of the things that will happen is as we get closer to Toulouse, this will probably automatically change, because in the flight plan, it is already selected 14 right, which is our landing runway. Although I have the chart for 14 left, I'm an idiot. That says 14 left. This is not correct. Okay, this could be a problem. I apparently don't know the difference between 14 right and 14 left. 14 right. So RNAV initial, ILS local. Let's get rid of these. Okay, so the same thing, Albus is over here. Ablis, not Albus, Ablis. Same altitudes. Come on over here to over there, Ablis. and this is 14 right, and the airplane was right. I was wrong. 110.7 TBS. Guess what? The airplane is smarter than I am. And I will tell you frequently, that is the way it's going to be. The airplane is very probably going to be smarter than you are. I'm sorry to say that in the world of flight sim, that's just the reality of this thing. Okay, so we're good to go there. The only other thing is because I don't know the difference between right and left. So coming on down here, at this point on 14 right, we can exit the runway at Sierra 4 and come on in here and probably find some cool Airbus stuff. So maybe we'll find a nice place to park our brand new airplane after its very first flight. Here comes our top of descent hockey stick. We're 7 miles out. So what I do is as we're getting closer, I'm going to look over here, and soon the purple dot is going to show up, and that is basically our descent guidance. Are we descending on the proper flight path, the most economical flight path too? And are we hitting all of our constraints? I think that some people call it the donut. So the donut is the dot that we're looking for. And if you look, I think it's starting to appear. We'll see if it starts moving up and down. In the past, I've just hit the button about now, you know, a little bit before. So we're 2 miles ahead. Maybe let's go ahead and do it 1 mile ahead. There's 1 mile. Let's press the button. Let's make a managed descent. And let's see what happens. So managed descent. And you see another little line. I call that little line there, I call that the squiggly. And the squiggly is where you actually intercept the descent path. And you see it's very close to the little airplane. Now, I think that somebody called it, a real world pilot was in chat and they called it the lightning bolt. So I think that that's what they call it. And then when you are on your proper descent path, when you're on the lightning bolt there, it disappears. So at least that's, I think that the real world pilot said, you know, he thought that squiggly was an okay name too. So there you go. And we have started our descent. Toulouse, here we come. I have no idea what kind of cool food you can have in Toulouse. But I'm guessing that when it comes to food for Airbus people, there's very little Toulouse in Toulouse. Okay, I know that was lame, but that's going to happen. Hey, this is second cup of coffee time. I'm finally waking up. Okay. I had a girlfriend once. I would tell a dumb joke like that every now and then, and I would get a sour look. She says, "You think you're clever, don't you?" Notice that the operative word there was former girlfriend. Yeah. In a serious discussion, we were saying something like, you know, I had a sense of humor and you actually don't. I think that was the beginning of the end for us. Okay, here. Yes, dating advice from Dave. Boy, that's bad. Let's go over here, and here comes the donut. So the donut is starting to descend, and at this point in time, the airplane will then go thrust idle. You see thrust idle has now got a white bar box around it. That means we're doing a thrust idle descent. That means we're probably, you know, we're just, for a jet engine, we're sipping gas on our descent, which I think is really awesome. And we'll just do our descent. There's Narak. You'll remember Narak is the top of our descent here. So we're coming down here, and we'll hit Narak before too long. We come on in here. There are a host of unpronounceable names for someone who understands, who speaks English, although I do know Bordeaux. So there we go, and there's Toulouse down there. And I'm not going to try any of the other ones because I will say it the wrong way, and that will be offensive. So coming up on Narak. Okay, you might also notice we've got a little purple dot up here. This is a deceleration point. So this is when the airplane's going to slow down a little bit. So we're good to go there. We also know what the altimeter is. There are descent checklists. The descent checklist also includes barrel reference and altimeters. So I am going to leave the approach checklist. There's no descent on mine. There's just approach. So everything else is good. We verified our nav is indeed sent to TBS. That is correct. 1107, and the inbound course is 2142. You would the real world pilots are going to go make sure those numbers match these. So there's TBS 1107, inbound course 142. All is good to go there. Passing 29,000 feet. Generally, as a simulator airline person, I generally do seat belts at about 25,000 feet unless there's turbulence. And the only reason I picked 25,000 is it's an easy number to remember. And that's kind of when I've noticed when I've been a passenger, at least on United, that's usually when it seems to be the seat belts. Sometimes they go on immediately after the descent starts. Usually what happens is the pilots make the plane starts the descent. Pilots usually pop on the PA. Well, folks from the flight deck, you probably noticed we've started our descent into Toulouse International Airport. We'll be turning on the seatbelt sign in the next 5-10 minutes. So if you've got any personal business to take care of, now's the time to get it done before we land. Personal business is go to the bathroom now because can't do it later. And so that gives people about 5 to 10 minute warning. Thing is, though, is that you got to wonder, is everybody going to go and do this mad dash to the front and back of the airplane? Given the way some airline passengers behave this day, it's a fist fight over who gets to go to the lavatory first. I know, our world is crazy. That's why I love Flight Sim. We get to remember the world before it went, Okay, so here's an interesting thing. So you notice that our line here coming in is green. There's our green line. You see the blue line? That's missed approach. So the blue line is missed approach. I also think there's another line that's going to show up, and that is the line that takes us to our alternate. At least that's the way it is in the older Airbus FMSs. I don't know if that transferred over when all of this changed and it became a McDo. There's our descent. 4.1, we're supposed to be 3.7. Our fuel is absolutely outstanding. Temperatures in the airplane are good. The cabin vertical speed is descending a little bit now. Cabin altitude's 5,800 feet. This is another thing that I think that's going to be new with these XLR Airbuses, the newer Airbuses. They're building them and designing them to pressurize at a lower altitude. I think most airlines pressurize to about 7,000 feet. Most airliners are set to be about 7,000 feet or something like that, which for some people is a little bit high. And I think that, along with the drier air in a cabin, is what, contributes to what some people deal with on a long-haul flight as, the long-haul hangover. Even if you didn't drink beer or anything like that, you get off the airplane and you just feel, ugh. Well, with the A350 and I guess the A380, they started setting the cabin so that it would pressurize at a lower altitude. And at least in the A350 and the 80, they add a little bit of humidity, which, used to be the, death blow for an airplane. You want no humidity at all, dry as possible. But they've started to add just a little bit of humidity. And there is a YouTuber named Bjorn Pilot. I think Bjorn Pilot has retired from airlines, but Bjorn Pilot was doing a tour around the A350 and talking about how it is that people got off the airplane and they just, some felt even refreshed as opposed to, oh God, it's finally over. That kind of thing. We're 24,000 feet seatbelts. And there we go. So around 25,000 feet is when I do the seatbelt stuff. And we are back in the ortho zone. There's some places over France that I haven't gotten to ortho yet. But I do have to say, you know, you take some good quality ortho like this, put it in X-plane, and it really does make the scenery at this altitude look good. I don't know what the rules are going to be as far as things like ortho scenery in X-plane 12. I think the rumors that I'm hearing, and I'm not speaking from a position of knowledge or authority here, which begs the question, why are you even speaking at all? But this is the internet. We do rumors here, right? So I've heard that what we're going to be getting is some very advanced and much nicer scenery meshes, which are supposed to make things look this good. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what their plans are. I know that I'm really excited to see what they're going to be, though. Okay, nothing else to really worry about up here. All the lights are out. The only other things we're going to do up here will be a couple of cabin calls, and we'll do landing lights and the nose light for landing. So everything's good to go up there. We are passing 21,000 feet. The donut is right in the middle, so we're right on the descent path, and we continue with thrust idle descent. And let's see, current time, sorry about the sniff, the allergies are brutal here right now. So I've had to temporarily give up adult beverages, you know, in the afternoon because, actually it gets to the point where I really do need, you know, some sort of cold medicine kind of a thing, you know, to prevent drooling on the microphone, because it really does get disgusting. And I'm sure at some point in time, somebody's going to come up with, you know, live streams, you know, drooling live streams coming soon to a computer screen near you. But I don't think I want to be that kind of a trailblazer. Now we just kind of enjoy. The weather is nice. I'm flying real world weather, real world time. The clouds that you see are the high performance clouds from Active Sky. These are textures that came with Active Sky. And since the day that I got Active Sky, this is all I've used. And while the colors and the lighting here in X-Plane 11 are kind of dull, and yes, you can do things with reshade and stuff like that, but I've by and large been real happy with the clouds. They're just fine. They're not nearly as amazing as the clouds over in Microsoft Flight Simulator. From a scenery standpoint, a visual standpoint, Microsoft Flight Simulator remains absolutely stunning. But for tube-liners and right now, Toulouse, Flight Factor, Rotate, and especially INI builds, the place to be right now is X-Plane for those kinds of incredible airplanes. Although INI build, you know, we know that PMDG has come to Microsoft Flight Simulator, and who else is coming to Microsoft Flight Simulator in November is INI builds. And those are the people that make the A300, the A310, and the Beluga. And we know that the A310 is coming to Microsoft Flight Simulator with the 40th anniversary special download that we're all going to be getting in November from Microsoft and Asobo. So a part of that is going to be the INI builds A310. I think I did a video on it recently here on YouTube. That's a really cool airplane, and I suspect that the Microsoft Flight Simulator version is going to be really, really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it is that they do. Outside we go. Ground's getting a little bit closer. Sun's getting a little bit lower in the horizon as we fly over France today. Nobody has offered me any French wine or anything like that. And I really do like the livery that they've done here. You know, the extra long range livery for the A321. You can find this livery. This livery was a part of the download from Toulouse. So this is actually a default livery that comes with the Toulouse A321. And I was able to go and set that livery up with my Sim Toolkit Pro and SimBrief. So I'm guessing, judging from what I'm seeing here as our estimated fuel on board for landing, you were well above 3.7 still. So my guess is it's doing our fuel planning and flight planning really good for this airplane. passing 15,000 feet. At this point in time, we're into the stars, so let's go ahead and pop in constraints. So below flight level 150 here at Narek, below flight level 110 here at, see, what is it after Narek? That's Albus there, I think. There's another one that's really close by there. And then you can see right here, there is our ILS. So we're 40 miles away from the airport, getting ready to do that landing thing. 21 miles is when we should be at 8,000 feet, and 8,000 feet is Ablis. I keep saying Albus. I must be ready to watch Harry Potter again soon. Nothing else to worry about here. Transition, it's 6,000 feet. And we already know what the altimeter is. The current time, it is 1727 Zulu. My guess is the current METAR that we've been looking at is very probably going to be our landing METAR. But let's just go and check it. Right now, this METAR was 1630 Zulu. Let's hit refresh. Uh-oh, it's a new one. So this one is 1700, so the METAR has changed. So let's go ahead and just compare. 1009, that has not changed. The temperature is a degree cooler. And the winds are 14013. That is a change. So I'll go over here, grab my flight notes, and paste them in over the old ones. And then remember, we also need to go and make a change in our in the McDo. So next phase, landing. Altimeter is still good. 1009, 28 degrees is our new temperature. Winds 14013. 140 at 13. Okay, so that's good to go. Back over there. Now for a really great visual cue about what this means for us. So the wind obviously shifted, but in this case, it shifted. We're going to be landing on 14 right. Yes, 14 right is our landing runway. You can see it shifted almost right down the runway. So the winds have shifted in our favor. The odds are forever in our favor on this one. Don't tell President Snow. Okay. And as we come into Toulouse, you can see the ortho scenery really is getting better and better as we get closer to the ground. Now, there becomes a point in time in X-Plane that it does become very, very old school computer game. But from this altitude, wow. Then you can go back and look in the cabin. And that still looks really awesome. And the clouds are flying by the airplane pretty nicely too. See, we're 40 miles out. So let's go and do 40 miles on the map. It's supposed to be below 110 at Albus. So it looks like it's kind of holding us out. Now this is an interesting constraint. It says below 110. I believe maybe that might be at Metro. Let's continue the descent to 3,000 now. So we're going to continue the descent down to 3,000, which is where we need to be here. We've also got a speed reduction, and there's our speed reduction, and there we are at 240 knots. At this point in time, I become a little bit of a control freak, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do, you notice the mouse pointer on this one, there is a single dot with the mouse pointer at the top and a double dot at the bottom. So single dot is pushing it in, the other one is pulling it out. Pushing it in basically means the FMC, the McDo has control. I'm going to pull it out, and we're going to go ahead and start reducing our speed. And at this point in the descent, unless ATC wants me to go faster, I like to start reducing my speed. Looking over here, there's a little thing that I call, when I'm flying an Airbus, called the hash marks. I think there's a real official name for it, but you see the little gold dash line here. There's one on the top and bottom of the yellow line, and now it's going up. That is flaps safe, so we could start throwing out some flaps there. Here is green dot. That is flaps up, clean speed. So we can start throwing out flaps about now. As long as I've got a little arrow flashing there, that tells me that we are still slowing down. But at this point, if I can, I'm going to go out and throw out a notch of flaps. This helps me keep the speed a little more under control as we're coming in. So I just did flaps 1. The flap system, the Toulouse airplanes work really, really well with the Thrustmaster TCA Airbus controls. I've added a little bit of speed brake here. We're getting a little bit high, and we're in 20 miles to turn to finals. So I want to get my speed down here to 210 now. And you might need another one. We can look outside. Do we have speed brakes working? Yes, let's add a little more speed brake there. And yep, now we're getting a little bit slower. And we want to stay as close as we can to our descent path because this is going to happen fast. We're also getting close, so let's go over here and activate LS, the landing system. This is where we're going to look for the ILS. TBS is shown here on the primary flight display. 110.7, that is correct. We are 21 nautical miles out. So speed continues to come down. Map can go to 20 miles. See, we passed 10,000 feet. We should have done landing lights at 10,000 feet. And let's ring the bell for the cabin. We are passing 6,000, so here is close enough for a altimeter change, 1009. So 1009. And that should have changed all of my altimeters. Okay, we're coming across another layer of little hash marks there, the gold hash marks line. So that's another indication that we could roll out some flaps. Also, the S is showing up, so we could go and do another notch. Speed brakes away. And how about another click of the flaps? Always fun to watch flaps deploy. And there is 210. Getting ready for our turn to final, which is now 10 miles out. Let's go ahead and reduce our speed to 180. Now that I'm in control of the speed, I want to go over here and we're going to put this in approach mode. VAP speed's 148. If I were going to control it manually, I would remember. I usually round it up to the next 10, 5 or 10 to make it easy to remember. And our approach checklist says briefing has been done ad nauseum. ECAM is clear and good. Seatbelts are on. Barrel reference has been set. The MDA has been set. Engine mode is going to be normal. Our approach checklist is done. Hey, there's glide slope and localizer. We're a little bit below the glide slope. That's really nice. Let's get just a little bit closer, about 5 miles or so, so we're really in there. Speed's still coming down. That's nice. I'm going to go ahead now, and since we do have glide slope and localizer, I'm going to arm the approach. And you can see altitude, GS is blue, so is localizer. Blue means it's armed and it's ready to take over when it's ready to take over. Speed is now below another notch, so we can go to flaps 3 at 180. And there's 180, we're below. All of this is looking good, almost like I know what I'm doing, which is scary. And here we go over here. You can see on the approach, we're right where we're supposed to be. Here's our turn to final. So we can go over here, and now we're gonna go to the ILS chart. There we are, and that's looking good. I think we're gonna be fine. So at this point in time, I usually like to, when I have a last few seconds, I will go and I will start centering this up so that I know how to get off the runway, put it over on the other monitor so that I will be able to see where I am on the ground, because that's when you're really busy. It's when you got to switch to ground control, and ground control will be saying things like, you know, exit right, Sierra 5, then Whiskey 35 to Sierra 32, and you're going, huh, what? And if it's over there at that point in time, it drives you a little less crazy. And again, if you had a co-pilot with you, co-pilot's going to help with all of this stuff. But we're flying these things alone. And when you're doing something like that alone on a VATSIM flight, then it gets even more insane. Last click of the map, we are about ready to make our turn. And we can watch a really nice turn here. And the scenery looks good. Cabin view looks nice too. And you could look out the window. I mean, that's how you'd be looking out the window. It's almost like we got to go to France. We are snagging localizer. We actually went over a little bit. It will do those sorts of things, but I think we're going to be fine. It'll tune itself up for us. Generally, the ATC
2,500
is going to tell you to keep up about 180 knots until, 5 miles DME from the runway. We are now about 7.5 miles. It says 10 miles DME. So they'll generally say things like, 180 until 5 miles DME to keep your speed up. So plan on stuff like that. They do that a lot on VATSIM these days. And I assume they do that even more in the real world. At this point, we go outside because it is time for wheels. Wheels, a great idea about now. Okay, if you're like me and on longer flights, you kind of move around in your chair and stuff. Now is the time to sit back, make sure your chair's not, you're locked so you don't lean back when you push your rudder pedals. Gently put your feet on the rudder pedals too. Make sure your throttles are in the right spot. You can get your side stick, because it's almost time for us to say thank you, Otto the autopilot. But we are going to do our own thing now. And I also like to look up and I will announce to the co-pilot, I have the airport, I have the runway, that I actually have visual on that. Coming up on 5 miles to landing. And there's close enough. So manage speed. We're also going to do auto brakes low. We need to arm those speed brakes. Speed brakes are armed. Cabin call. There's a call for the cabin. And we're just waiting for full flaps, and we'll do that as our speed continues to reduce. There's full flaps. ECAM is clear, so let's do the landing checklist. Cabin crew is advised. Auto throttle is on speed. Auto brakes are set to low. ECAM memo is all green. Landing checklist is done.
1,000.
The voice is talking to us. As the airplane settles into the final descent and approach, I'll kind of wait until the airplane is established like this. It's got its speed before I'm going to go and turn off the autopilot. Now, somebody was telling me in chat over on Twitch that on approach, even if you're not doing a Category 3, when you're doing the setting up the ILS like we just did there, what they will tell you is you activate both of them. One of the buttons that I have on my side stick is the red button. That's the autopilot disconnect. The other button on the other side is cancel. So warning cancel. When I turned off the autopilot, it beeped at us pretty good. So what I will do is I have that one set up.
100 above. $200. Minimum.
Continue. Got blown off a little bit of the side. I think we'll make it.
50, 40, 30, 20. Retard. 10, 5.
Reverse. Kind of plopped it a little bit, didn't we? And I'm doing idle reverse right now, so not just revving it up there. Because remember, we're going to the end of the runway. Oh no, we're not going to the end of the runway. That was the other runway that I briefed, not this runway. Okay, reversers are stowed. Manual braking. Auto brakes are off. Welcome to Toulouse. And S4, this was the exit. So Sierra 4. This is an airport for Toulouse that I got. I don't know where I got this one. It was online. It was a freeware. I did have to go, and once I got the Beluga, I did add Beluga barns. So those are the I think it's the official term is the Beluga line station, and so there's 3 of them here in Toulouse. So I got those 3. And flaps up, speed brakes down, APU. One of the things, this is one of Toulouse's older airplanes, so I haven't been able to control a lot of things with the mouse wheel. You know, you can turn some switches and knobs with that. I can do a few knobs, but not an awful lot of them on this airplane. I imagine, but you can do that over on the A340 that they made. So my guess is when this airplane updates, we'll be able to do that too. A bunch of Airbuses over here for Delta. We must be at Airbus land. Wonder if we're going to be able to find a parking place in here. Okay, did not hit start. I just opened the flap. Trying to be a little more attentive of putting the airplane on the center line. I've been a little lazy about that lately. Quite the operation here in Toulouse. So we're coming down here to the red brick building. That looks really weird to me. There's a scenery error there. There's a hill. I don't think we're going to go down that hill. You still find some scenery errors with some things like that. That was pretty bad. And now we've slowed down. Yeah, we're going over a scenery error. So, you know, we'll just kind of speed up and hope we can make it over over that little hump. So we'll come down here by these British Airways airplanes. I guess we'll call this the parade. I bet there's a parking place right in between those two. Well, actually, it doesn't look like one. This is the first time I've actually been down here. Yeah, there's no parking place there. Well, I hope you're enjoying our tour of Toulouse and Airbus land here. Must have been a little bit of rain. Uh-oh, we're slowing down. That usually, oh, and we're going downhill. We're going back uphill here. Add some thrust. We were backing up and going downhill. Hey, there's an Air Berlin that they put over there. Well, I want to park over here by all the cool kids, but I just don't see any places for us to go. So is there anything around over here? Man. Oh, there's an old US Airways Airbus. Shall we? Boy, I don't see anything exciting down there. You know what? This looks like an executive office building. How about if we come in here? I don't know if this is a parking place, but this is an executive office building. So this is probably where they would take an airplane like this on its first flight. Going uphill. And how about that? Parking brakes. And the APU is up. Engine number 2. Engine number 1. Come on up here. We're going to do the APU bleed. Disarm the emergency exit lights. And do seatbelts. I should have turned off the beacon. And the nose light can go off. We also should be good pilots and turn off the fuel. And everything is good here. Come on down here. We should have stopped squawking Terra once we got on the ground, but we're going to do that. And there is predictive wind shear. And do we have hot brakes? We have hot brakes. Imagine that. So we got to turn on the brake fans. And looks like we made it. So the airplane's here, and we'll call this executive land. So not bad. We're not on VATSIM, so it's very easy to go into replay mode. This is one of the things that I really like about X-Plane, is they had a really nice replay engine function already set up in the airplane, in the sim. This airplane flies so well. I imagine, you know, from the video we saw, those pilots were really smiling on the flight. I think there was a reason why. I think they were really having a good time. Sim Toolkit Pro says that was a 267 foot per minute landing. I'm going to call that good. I do have my reversers open. I don't think it's... Oh, there's reversers. Oh, look at that. The reverser didn't show up on the other airplane. Oh, there it is. Oh, I know why. So I was just doing a thrust idle reverse, and I apparently didn't have my one throttle all the way out yet. So that was probably why. So we did it. How about that? This is the second flight that they did of this particular airplane down to Toulouse, France. So the A321 XLR is now a flying airplane, which is really, really cool. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got a chance to fly along on this one. This is a nice route if you're looking for a good route. This is also a great beluga route, too, if you have the beluga from Builds. As always, my flights here over on YouTube and on Twitch is not necessarily about the absolute right way versus the absolute wrong way. This is what works for me, and hopefully what works for me is going to help you get a simulated airplane off the ground, up in the air, at cruise, land, and taxi to the gate, and without you making the evening news. I'm still really new here on YouTube, so I'm still reading all the comments and questions. So if you've got comments and questions, I will read them all and respond to them. And if you've got an idea for a video you'd like to see here on YouTube, I hope you'll put them in comments and questions too. As I said, I'm new here on YouTube. I'm a long way from being one of those YouTubers that gets monetized. But if you like what you saw, this is how it is that I'm actually surviving after, you know, a lot of layovers and a 30-year career. So if you'd like to show some support, it will be greatly appreciated. You can do that over on Ko-fi or Patreon, or you join us over on the Twitch Spy Flight. You can hit the sub button or something like that. But most important, come on over and fly with us over on Twitch. We fly every day, Tuesday through Sunday. Our departure time is 1900 Zulu. After I'm done with this flight, I will be getting to work on next week's flights on Twitch. And so I hope maybe you'll join us there. I would suspect that you're probably going to see a Airbus A321 XLR flight for sure. Thank you so much for flying with me. I hope that you are having a good week this week, and I will see you soon here again on YouTube, and again even sooner on Twitch. Cheers.